Welcome to the Hope Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Olympic gold medalist Laura Wilkinson. Each week, I have the privilege of chatting with a different elite athlete about how they navigated their rise in sports, where they find their purpose, and how they're contributing in amazing ways to the world today. You're in for a real treat today as Olympian Lauryn Williams is joining us. I can't easily tag a sport alongside her Olympian status because Lauryn's actually the first American woman to win a medal in both the Summer and Winter Olympics. And she's one of only 5 individuals to ever do so. She raced track and field in 3 Olympics, and just when she thought she was retiring, she turned right around and raced bobsled in the Winter Olympics. But her journey is about so much more than that. She has walked through heartbreaking defeats and emerged so incredibly grateful, optimistic, and authentic. She's a savvy business owner, a compassionate leader, and an all-around inspiration. You are going to be so glad you tuned in today. Let's dive on in. Lauryn Williams, thank you so much for coming on the Hope Sports Podcast today.
It is so good to be here. I can't wait to share my story.
Well, for those listening that may not know a whole lot about you, can you kind of walk us through how you got your start in sports?
Sure. So it all started way back in the 1980s. No, I'm born and raised I'm born in Pittsburgh, raised between Pittsburgh and Detroit, and started running track when I was 9 years old. And depending on who you ask, between my mother and father, you'll get 2 entirely different stories about how I got my start.
Uh-oh.
My dad will tell you that we were at the Carnegie Science Center in Pennsylvania, and there was a FloJo hologram. And I do know this story to be true. I remember the hologram, and I remember racing the hologram. But I stayed there all day, didn't do anything else, didn't see anything else in the Science Center. And I did beat the hologram a few times. Now, clearly, she couldn't have been set at world record pace. But I did.
Or you're a really impressive 9-year-old, one or the other.
Right. Or I was a really impressive 9-year-old that wasn't quite as fast as I got older. So. And then my mom tells a story of me getting home faster than the family German Shepherd. And I do also remember going outside and playing with the dog and, her kind of calling us when it was this time for us to come in. But whether or not I got home faster than my dog, I'm inclined to believe I did, but
you're a racer from the beginning, huh?
Exactly. I always loved running, always loved being outside, competing, and, it's kind of a tomboy, if you will.
Did you do any other sports, or was it always just track and running?
Everything. In fact, I didn't think that I was going to be like a star track athlete. It wasn't a goal or aspiration of mine at all. I did karate, I did ballroom dancing, I did gymnastics.
Ballroom dancing.
I know, right?
Wow. Nice.
Softball. I didn't make the volleyball team. I still kind of have a chip on my shoulder about that.
You can't have it all, Lauryn. Can't have it all.
Can't have it all. That's true. Basketball was the thing I loved the most, though. And that's what I thought I was going to do and wanted to do. But sitting on the bench on senior night in high school, my best friend got hurt and then finally got to go in when she got hurt in the 4th quarter. Let me know that I was probably not going to be a basketball player beyond my high school days.
Well, so how did you find yourself at University of Miami?
Well, when I started to get these letters in the mail to ask me, if I was interested in attending this school or that school, I got really excited because I didn't know that was actually an option initially. I was really working hard toward getting academic scholarship monies and keeping my grades up. And then I realized there was this thing called athletic scholarships. And I was like, oh, this could work. And I'm just sorting through the different options. I decided that if I needed to go to school and it was going to be my obligation to run track as a way to kind of pay for my education, that I had better do it in a place that had warm weather so that I'd feel good about going to practice every day and meeting
Smart
this obligation.
Move.
Yes. Mm-hmm. At 17, that's all the more wise that I could be, was warm place, outdoors. And I went on my college visit there. It was October. And so got sunburned in Miami in October and got back to Pennsylvania for school. And it was the first frost. So I needed a coat, and I was like, sunburn in October or snow in October? Definitely doing this.
I think that's a wise move. Well, you competed track at Miami, you graduated in 2004, and you were even inducted into the Iron Arrow Honor Society, the university's highest honor. Tell us about your college experience.
It was amazing. There's no place I would have rather gone to school. There was not a day that I regretted choosing the University of Miami. The way that they looked after me in in a family sort of way. We got there, and the athletic department was a small, tight-knit family. My coach, to this day, I can say, has always done what was in my best interest, and always thought about like what I needed and what was going to be best for me as a person, in addition to me as an athlete. And the university as well, kind of rallied around me when I started to get some fame and stardom, and made sure that they did everything they could to help me as well. And so I'm just really appreciative for the opportunity to have gone to that school, to have been supported the way that I was, all the way up to the president of the university.
Wow.
It was a really, really good opportunity.
Oh, that's cool. So after you graduated, you made it to the 2004 Athens Olympics. That was your first Olympic Games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got a silver there in the 100 meters. You became one of the darlings of the games. But at that same games, in the 4x100, your team was disqualified because of the baton pass. Like, can you kind of walk us through? I'm sure there were so many ups and downs to that Olympics, not only just because it's your first Olympics too, and then all of that. Like, walk us through that.
Yeah, there was a lot. It was 2004. I was 20 years old. I was now dealing with this idea of becoming a professional athlete. That was not something that was necessarily on my radar earlier in the year. I was just trying to win the NCAA title. And, not only did I win NCAAs, but I ran the second fastest time in the world. And it was like, oh, you're now the fastest American that we have heading into the Olympic trials. So you better get on your big girl britches and hop to it, because there's sponsorship opportunities. And there was just a lot to sort through as a junior in college, 20 years old, and now it being the Olympic year. So I get on this Olympic team. I had to figure out how to get my family over there. I didn't have any money yet. My family didn't have a lot of money. So there were fundraisers going on and things like that to sort through. My dad got to Athens and got sick. There was just a lot going on, to say the least. But then in addition to that, like you said, the actual performance. And I think I did a really good job of kind of, bundling my nerves together and performing well, earning that silver medal. But then we had to go and get ourselves I had to go and get collaborative with the other sprinters and work on this relay, and it did not go very well at all. You're right. And the thing that's really hard about it, even in thinking about it and reminiscing about it today, is that we were easily a world record team. If we could have gotten that baton around the track in the way that the potential we had, there's no doubt about it that we not only would have been gold medalists, but Olympic world record holders, or world record holders, not Olympic world record. And yeah, just negative chemistry, the coaches not really paying attention to what we were saying as athletes, and, feeling like they knew what was best for us, even in the midst of us saying that, what about this? What about that? All those things and all that negative chemistry came together, and we did not get the baton around the track.
How did you guys get a lot of flack for that?
A whole lot of flack for that. I was receiving the baton from the infamous Marion Jones. I was this new rookie, even though I'd, like I said, just won a medal, and you'd think that would create some stability or credibility. It did not seem to create very much at all. And we were the crappy Americans that didn't do their job. And, there was all kinds of headlines on failure and, how could we screw this up sort of deal, and whose fault it was, and lots of blame game. And yeah, it was a really tough time.
Well, how do you handle that as a 20-year-old thinking about going professional? Now all of a sudden too, you're thrust into the spotlight with a medal and with this failure. Like how did you handle that?
It was a lot. You're right, because I got the really good high of earning a medal, and you said not having expected that at all early in the year, but then I got this really, really big low of you let the whole country down and you let your teammates down. And I was the actual person that was part of the botched handoff, because there's 4 runners. So, 3 other people could have done perfectly and one person got it wrong. And, I could have been on the done perfectly part of that, but I was on the got it wrong part of that. And so, it was the first time I was subject to the opinions of others, and, just even the anger and hatred that others have just for sport in general. So, you stupid girl, how could you, and you're an idiot, and, things that just went far beyond the actual performance that I think were very unnecessary. And, just negative fans that you have to deal with. And digging yourself out of the idea that this is not who I am. This does not define me. And what those people are saying about me is not the thing that is most important. It's about who I believe I am, how I decide to bounce back from this catastrophe, and, the way that I move forward that's going to build me and make me a stronger person.
Mm-hmm. Well, so those next 4 years, you went pro, I'm guessing at that point. You did kind of become professional. You made another Olympic team in 2008. And again, it seems like it was kind of a mixed bag. I mean, you got fourth in the individual, but that's, short of the medals. You had 3 Jamaican runners that were in front of you. And then in the relay, again, like you were the anchor, and there was a mix up in the semifinals, and your teammate dropped the baton. And like you had to pick it up, and you guys finished, but you got DQ'd because you had to run outside of the lane in order to pick up the baton. Like I found a quote that you had about this that I just thought was so well said that I would love you to talk on. You said, "It's a pretty big deal when you're the person that was accountable for the demise of an opportunity, not only for us to win a gold medal, but to possibly break a world record, because we had 2 really fast teams both of those years, and I felt very alone in that moment." Like how, I know you said you've got to figure out that like this doesn't define you, but it happened again. And like, how do you have people speaking into you? Were you isolated? Like, what did it look like walking out those days afterward?
I'm very fortunate to have a really good team around me and have a really good set of friends to kind of keep me lifted up in moments like that. But it's definitely really tough, even despite faith and belief, to just walk away and like kind of let that roll off your shoulders. You work so hard. You want to do well for not just yourself, but for those that you're competing with. You do want to represent your country to the best of your ability. And in that moment, you feel like you failed at all of those things. And you just want to hit the rewind button. You're like, why is there not a rewind button
right.
somewhere? But yeah, working through it just takes a little bit of time. It takes, sticking to this idea that, some negative things are going to happen, but these things are something to build on. They're not something to continue to hold you down, or they're not something to kind of wallow in and stay there. So, I say like, yay, do I walk through the valley of shadow of death? I always tell people in speeches and things, it's like, it's walk through. It doesn't say like stop and set up camp there. It doesn't say, hang out in the valley of the shadow of death.
That's so good.
So just giving yourself those constant reminders that, yeah, it stinks, but keep going.
And did you keep going after Beijing? Because I know you finished your master's, and then you took a whole year off in 2010. So did you keep training kind of after and then take a break, or how did that play out?
Yeah. So my dad passed away in 2008, shortly after those games. So to add insult to injury, yeah, he passed away in that year, and it was just a little bit tough to digest. It was May of the following year, 2009, when it really kind of hit me. And I think, people grieve differently so often, and you never really know what it's going to mean or what it's going to feel like for you when you lose someone that's very close to you. And, I was just kind of bebopping along and pretending as if nothing had happened. And I went to call him. I was on my way to practice in 2009 and picked up the phone and dialed it, was like waiting for it to ring. And then I realized can't call someone who's dead. Mm-mm. And it kind of just spent me into a spiraling few months of, the actual real grieving process and wondering, what is life all about anyway? Who am I outside of running up and down this track and, getting these accolades and, being judged or feeling as if I'm judged so harshly or so with so much weight by the world because of my ability to run up and down the track. And, you meet people and, doctors and lawyers and other people that are contributing to society. And it's what does this mean? What am I contributing by running up and down this track? And so I took that year off in 2010 to really just kind of try to find that answer for myself. Who am I outside of this? Because I'm not finding that I'm anything other than an athlete. And I know there's more, but I don't know what else I am. Mm-hmm. And I want to take time to figure that out. And what I did during that off year was spend a lot of time talking to other people about, how they got where they were. So there's a young lady that owns a hotel. And I'm like, how do you come to own a hotel? And her story, it was just, all sorts of different things. And she didn't go to college for hotel ownership and then get out of school and work in a hotel and then become a hotel owner. It was a very, very, windy, weavy story. And then you realize that, you're not this, there's no linear path to anything that you're doing. And you get to write your story. You get to decide who you are and what you want to be. And there's nothing that you can't do if you set your mind to it. And it's not just in saying that about sport. It's about saying that in life and deciding then, what do you want to do? What do you want to set your mind to? And so that's kind of what was happening for me in the 2010 year, was me figuring all that out.
I love that. And what did you find out? Who are you? What did you discover during that time? Loaded question, I know.
Right, exactly. I found out that who I am is ever evolving, that from one day to the next, I am, growing into who I'm going to be, and that there doesn't have to be a set definition on that. I think that's one of the things we're always trying to fit ourselves into a box. Where's the appropriate label that I'm supposed to be wearing right now? And there is no one thing that you are, like if you went through, you could say, woman, dog lover, wife, and the list goes on of all these different things, law and order lover, podcaster, financial planner. But you don't need to fit into a box. And from one day to the next, one of those things might drop off and something else might be added to the mix. Each and every day is a process of being the best me that I can be. It's not really about, fitting into anyone else's box or creating boxes for myself.
So good. And so what made you in 2011 return to competition?
I just knew that I wasn't done yet. I decided, like you said, that though this is not who I am in its entirety, that it is a part of who I am, track and field, and that I had more to give. I had more that I wanted to accomplish. I had plenty of potential inside, and that I wanted to go after reaching my full potential. And I wanted to really walk away by saying I had left it all on the track. And so I went back to sport with that as the intention. And I did have a completely different mindset when I returned to sport. Knowing that was not, like you said, the end all to be all. And though I didn't know what was coming next, that, the end was closer to the end than I was to the beginning, and that I had better make the most of these opportunities. So I think my attitude changed quite a bit. I was a lot more grateful to those that I was around, for their contribution to, me being able to compete. So you don't realize sometimes, or, because we're athletes and, I do an individual sport, it's a lot of me thinking about me, but the number of hours that someone else has to spend for me to be able to reach my full potential. My coach has to write the workout. She has to watch the film. She has to show up at practice with me, travel and be away from her family. And the weight coach does the same thing. The nutritionist is doing, similar things. And so really just kind of tuning into all that was around me and all that I had to be grateful for and all that people were pouring into me. I was a lot more aware and a lot more focused on showing gratitude and appreciation for my ability to be able to compete. So I'd get to a track meet and, remember to thank the volunteers, because a lot of track and field is volunteer oriented. And, we're, like I said, busy rushing, or we're mad at them because they're telling us we can't go over here and we need to warm up over there. And, it's these are real people, and take a moment to be present in the moment and realize that. And I think it just created, like I said, a new energy for me as I returned to sport.
Oh, that's so cool. And so how did that, change things? Because you did make another Olympic team in 2012. So walk us through what this new attitude, this new kind of outlook on life, how did that affect your games in London?
I think it helped quite a bit because, part of that story is I didn't make the Olympic team in my individual event. I made it as only part of the relay. And so, it's a tough pill to swallow initially that you didn't make it for your individual event. You could have been left at home. And despite my failures, 2004, we dropped the baton. 2008, we dropped the baton. despite both of those being the situation and me being directly involved in both of those situations, they still thought enough of me to bring me as part of the relay. They thought that I had enough experience. They valued the experiences that I had and wanted me to share that because most of the other team was brand new. They'd never been on an Olympic team before. So here they are with this opportunity to be a part of the relay, but they don't have any experience on this stage. And I have not just experience, but experience in the worst kind of way. So I can tell you exactly what to do to avoid ending up in the situation that I ended up in. And, maturing to a point to understand that that has value was a really big part of the puzzle for me. Knowing that, there's something in being able to explain to them why we should not go about it this way, why our chemistry needs to be really great, why we need to communicate with one another, because that negative energy that we took on the track in 04 and 08 definitely played a role in our, failure. And I think that bit was really important to contribute to our success in 2012.
Yeah, well, I would say successful. I mean, I think your leadership and your wisdom that you learned along the way was obviously helpful. You guys walked away with a gold medal. Like, what did that getting that gold medal mean to you?
I would say in the moment, like you said, it's been a process of me maturing to understanding and really getting meaning from that medal. But in the moment, I wasn't ready to accept. I felt really embarrassed and ashamed. Like you said, the way that I just described the medal to you now is where, I've evolved to understanding like what my contribution was and why it was valuable. But initially, I felt kind of fraudulent. I felt like I didn't earn that medal. So the way that that goes is there are 6 of us that get to go as part of the relay, and 2 of us competed in only the first round, while the other 2 were resting because they were also running the open 100 meters. So I contributed in the first round, which is an important thing because if you don't get it around in the first round, there is no second round.
Right.
But the actual group that won the gold medal, ran the final, broke the world record, I wasn't on that team. And so it felt a little bit weird initially to say that I was an Olympic gold medalist when I knew I didn't do the final part of the race. And it felt, a little weird to call myself a world record holder when I was not actually on the track and, doing my part to contribute there. But like I said, I started to think about like the contributions and, having talks with others and, just realizing how different that games was than the others. And, like one of the girls coming up to me later and saying, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. It was really frustrating when, this happened or whatever. And you helped me understand it. I realized that was valuable and that was a contribution and that helped her be able to compete to the best of her ability.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I know sometimes it really is hard in those moments, but I love that you can look back and see all that you really did add to that, because without leadership and without somebody guiding and directing, I mean, who knows what would have happened, right? We need all of those things to come into play at the right time to happen. Mm-hmm. So what happened after London? Because I think you retired from track, but something else kind of started to take play. And I want to know how all of this unfolded.
So I was thinking about giving up sports. So London came and went, and I had 1 season left as per my contract. And I thought it was kind of perfect timing because, I could see and feel the end was near as it pertains to my ability to focus and really give all I needed to give to be a professional athlete. I knew that I could continue to compete for 5 years at a mediocre rate, or, I could stop because I wasn't putting 100% in. And my idea was, make the most of this last year of competing and then, move on with life. And while I was in my last year of competition, I ran into Lolo Jones at the airport and had read an article about her having tried bobsled after the 2012 games, and just wanted to hear more about her experience and how that happened. And she was like, Lauryn, it's awesome. It's really, really cool. You should try it. And it's the Olympic year. And I was like, so I just thought it'd be something cool to do in my free time now that I'm getting ready to retire. I wasn't thinking anything about the Olympics. And so, I reached out to find out like what the process was. And a month later, I was at the Olympic trials for bobsled. And
a month later,
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No, yeah. So that was, from, June of 2014, June of 2013, July of 2013, I was there and I was trying out. and the Olympics were 6 months later. So immediately I showed up, I got third place, and I had a really steep learning curve over the next 6 months.
I would imagine. That's insane. That's insane. And now, how did you get partnered with Alana too? Because you guys were obviously an amazing team. Like, how does that all work out in the bobsled world? Do they pick your teammate for you, or do you guys kind of all work together? What does that look like?
We do a little bit of round robin in that 6 months that I was telling you about. So we were racing. There's a World Cup season that takes place before you get to the games, and that plays into like your rankings and where you'll go in the process as a driver. But we did a lot of round robin to figure out who was going to be best suited to who, and we actually did not know until 10 days before the actual Olympics who was going to race with who.
Just 10 days?
10 days.
Whoa. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. So what did hearing the news that you were going to be on the Olympic team and getting to walk this out, like was it just surreal? I mean, here you were your whole life doing track and 3 Olympic games that way. And then all of a sudden, in a month you're on this Olympic team and I can't even imagine how you process that.
It was a lot. Like I said, it all happened really, really quick from, finding out about it to a month later being at the trials to having 6 months to figure the whole thing out, to it being a month before the Olympic Games and we're all still sitting in wait and, what's the word? Anticipation, trying to figure out like, who are they going to pick? They finally named the team, but then you still had to wait 20 more days to find out, now you're on the team, but you still don't know who you're racing with. So there's a lot of hurry up and wait, anticipation, and this big build of energy that's always happening in bobsled. But it's just really about like trying to figure out how to manage that to the best of your ability, how to, kind of enjoy the ride. And I think that was the thing that helped me a lot was I decided at the very beginning of it that I had nothing to lose. I only had things to gain, and that the journey was going to be the thing that was going to be more important to me than anything. What can I contribute? And I think that 2012 experience of, knowing that I wasn't competing, but I could still contribute, helped me understand that that's all that this was about. Is there a way I can contribute? Is there a way I can help this team? And if there's a way I can help and it doesn't require me to be on the actual track or on the actual team, then so be it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that Team USA has the best 6 people out there.
Oh, that's so cool. Now, I have to know, because I've only been a summer athlete, what's the difference besides the freezing cold? That's not like Miami. What's the difference between the summer and winter games from your perspective?
I would say the intimacy is the biggest thing. So I always tell people, like, I remember one of the years, I think they said the track and field team was 182 people. So just USA track and field, 182 people. For the Olympics, the Winter Olympic team, all sports, 230 people.
Wow.
So it really puts in perspective, all the various sports that compete in the Olympic Games in the summer, all the various sports for Team USA. There's thousands and thousands of athletes. But yeah, one team in the summer is pretty much equivalent to the whole Olympic team, all sports, in the winter.
Wow, that's cool. That's very cool. Well, you guys went on to, not just compete, but you got a silver medal in the 2014 Winter Olympic Games in Sochi, just 1/10 of a second behind the Canadians. Like, what did that medal mean to you, and how is it different from all your other experiences?
The thing that was really cool about that medal was, like I said, I never saw it coming. I could have never guessed that my life was going to take that turn and, bring me such a cool opportunity. And to have the opportunity to get to do it with Alana, who is an amazing person, made it that much more gratifying because we did it together. And, in track and field, I didn't really get that opportunity. I had the individual medals, and then I got to be a part of a team and, do my contribution there. But then this was like kind of the third kind of making me well-rounded, if you will, of actually competing with another person and earning that medal together. And it just felt so great to be able to do something with someone and to understand what it means to like partner up and decide to really go hard for a specific purpose with another person.
This is so cool. And you made history in doing this. You became the first American woman to win medals at both the Summer and Winter Olympics, and one of only 5 athletes ever to do it at all. I mean, that's incredible. Did you realize you were making history when you did this?
I did not. It did not come to my attention until the reporters brought it up afterward. They're like, what does it mean to you to make history? And I'm like, what kind of history? Like, I don't know. Yeah. So.
That's so cool. Well, okay. So tell me, now you have a financial planning business called Worth Winning. Tell us about your company.
Yeah. So my company was born out of me not having the best financial planners during my career. So I worked with 2 different gentlemen during the course of my career, and I wanted to be responsible with my finances, but they didn't really understand what I needed as an athlete. What I needed as a 20-year-old who didn't know a whole lot about money, and, my busy travel schedule. And, there's just a lot that doesn't fit into the traditional box of what financial planning is. So I help young professionals and professional athletes organize their finances. And, what does that mean? That's like creating a budget. If you never bought a house before and that's something you want to do, if you're saving for a wedding, you don't know anything about how to put money aside for taxes, and, do you need a business account or not? And there's just so many different things that get thrown our direction, and we just kind of make money, spend money, hopefully save a little bit of money. And, that's not a real strategy. I help people optimize their finances. So use the money, give it a job, and give it a job that's going to be in line with your values. So I spend a lot of time talking with my athletes and the young professionals that I work with about, like, what are your goals? What are your values? The same way that we do in sport. And let's work backwards from there and create smaller goals, smaller things that we want to do, and then go piece by piece after that, so that we can, the championship is this one thing that you're trying to achieve. But once again, it's never like making it to the podium that makes you feel awesome. It's this journey all along the way. And so using money as a tool to really enjoy the journey is how I try to focus my business and help people in all aspects of their finances.
Oh my goodness. I love that on so many levels. I mean, I love just what you're doing. I love who you're targeting to help. I mean, because there's definitely that need there. I mean, a lot of people, like you said, are young when they become professional athletes, because that's usually when an athletic career is optimal, is when you're young and you don't know anything. So I just think it's brilliant. I love how you compare it to athletics in such a way that we can understand. And I think you do a lot of stuff virtually too, right?
Yeah, I'm completely virtual. I'm actually podcasting today from Buenos Aires.
Ooh, so, wow. Yeah. We should have done this on location. I should have come down to you. That would have been nice. Very cool.
But, as young professionals, we are tech savvy. We're on the go. We're spread out all over the country. And I didn't want that to stop me from being able to serve the client that I want to serve. And we jump on a video chat just like Zoom, and we talk about what needs to be talked about, and there's no dumb questions, and there's no, fancy suit and tie that needs to be worn. People's kids are running around in the background. These things shouldn't be barriers to you getting help and getting the answers that you need about your finances. And it shouldn't be talked about in such a way that you don't understand it, and it sounds so fancy and complicated. We've got basic questions, and I really just want to help with basic questions. When I was competing and I wasn't finding that, I was frequently finding, very, like I said, fancy, talk down to me. It sounds more complicated than you can understand because you're not smart enough. And I'm like, no, that's not true at all. Like, break it down in a way that lets me know what I'm doing, why we're doing this, and, help me set some goals so that I'm going to be okay in the future.
I love it. Sports yes, it can play off in your life in so many ways. And it's just such a good analogy for life, right? You could just use it in so many ways. I love it. And you also have a podcast now. You said it's been a year now. So happy anniversary to your podcast, called Worth Listening. What do you talk about on your podcast?
Yes, I love my podcast. And the reason that I love it is like a passion project for me. It is encouraging others to discuss money. And I think that's one of the big barriers that we have in organizing our finances nowadays, because we all know that everybody has to make money some sort of way. Everybody has to spend money in some sort of way. And there's no requirement that you hire a financial planner or someone to help you. But what people do is hide the information, and they're afraid to say what they don't know. And they're ashamed of all these different things. And that's what actually leads to you making more mistakes. It's hiding, being embarrassed, not feeling like you can be open, feeling like you have to know everything and you can't ask anyone anything. And so my podcast is based all around people telling their money story so that the listeners don't have to feel alone and like, oh, I have student loan debt too, that's 6 figures. And, this is how I'm tackling it. And, I don't know what a 401k is, but I know I'm putting some money in it. And, now this person helped me break it down a little bit. So it's getting rid of all those barriers of things that could stop you from being able to save for your future or being able to get over the fact that you made some mistakes before and really move forward. I had a girl on recently that had paid down over $50,000 in credit card debt. And I think a lot of people get in a situation like that and they just, maybe file for bankruptcy or they, like I said, never even say anything to anyone. But this girl decided to make a mindset change and pay it all back and get rid of it and, change the way that she was going to think about money in the future. And I think that's a really inspirational story to tell. She didn't have to be a financial expert to inspire people to do the right thing and to get on some sort of plan. So the podcast is all about, like you said, having money discussions and encouraging others to be more open and honest about sharing what they know and educating one another about finances.
So good. And if that's not enough, having this new business and your podcast, you're also releasing a book very soon called The Oval Office, a 4-time Olympian's Guide to Professional Track and Field. So tell us about your book that's coming.
The book, yes. This is another thing that I'm really excited about. We are just days away. I actually spent the whole morning on the last round of edits and sent it off to the designer to redo and, get it to look like a book because right now it's still like a document. Mm-hmm. And yet again, another passion project. There's so many people in track and field that are just like, how do you navigate this world? And they have questions and there's no guide. There's nothing that tells you how do you become a professional track and field athlete? And what do I need to know? And, how can I be responsible in managing all these different aspects? And what questions should I be asking an agent? What should I consider before I buy a house and then decide that I'm going to go train with this coach instead? And now I'm stuck with a house in this state and got to pay rent in this state. And there's just so many different things that I learned during my time competing that I felt like I needed to share. And it wasn't just going to be a 1-hour talk and, try to change someone's life, but why not give them the roadmap to the things that I felt like I was missing in addition to the things that I felt like I did really well. And that's how the Oval Office was born. And I'm really, really, really excited about the way that it's going to change the lives of those who are interested in competing in sport. It's obviously not going to be like a New York Times bestseller. Track and field is a very small sport, but it matters so much to me that they'll have a resource available to them to help them understand better how to navigate sport.
I think it's amazing. And it sounds like you don't just have to be a track and field athlete. I'm looking at the highlights that you had on the website. It's like how to choose the members of your team, including your agent, your coach, your training group, how to negotiate sponsorships and contracts, handling your finances as a professional athlete, building your brand using social media, managing travel, nutrition, life outside of sports. To me, it sounds like it's going to be helpful to any professional athlete. So I'm going to have to pre-order a copy because I know you can. So tell us where we can find your book, your podcast, your company, all of your online things, where we can follow you to continue to just be inspired and to learn from you, because you obviously have a lot of great wisdom to teach us.
Definitely. So the book is the-oval-office.com. So all of my websites have a little dash in the middle because, to buy the actual website was $1 bazillion, but we've kept it all consistent. So whatever words I say, put a dash in the middle in between them and get to the .com and you're there. So Lauryn-Williams.com is my personal website and all about me as an Olympian and being a speaker and consulting and things like that. And then worth-winning.com is the website for financial planning, all things financial planning. And so you can find us on social media looking for the same sort of thing. So Worth_winning on Twitter, Worth Winning on Instagram, Lauryn C. Williams on all the social media platforms. So that's the one thing that's a little bit different, but I'm sure that'll all be in the show notes.
Yeah, so we'll make sure to link to everything so you guys don't get confused. But Lauryn, thank you so much for coming on. You're an incredible inspiration. I feel like you're a great teacher as well. And so we just really appreciate all of your wisdom here today.
It was wonderful being on the show. Like I said, I hope that I can inspire, and I'm just really excited to be kind of in that next phase of life where I can give back to sport, because sport has given so much to me.
Wow. A huge thanks to Lauryn for joining us today. Isn't she just incredible? I just love how she talked about taking that time off in 2010 to really dig into her purpose and figure out what life was about outside of running. It's so neat how that journey just drastically changed who she was going into the next Olympics. The gratitude, leadership, and composure that her solid identity gave her, it really allowed her to ride the waves of the coming years towards all of the amazing things that she's doing now. She's just incredible. Be sure to check out the links in the show notes to follow her on social media. And if you're an athlete, definitely snag a copy of her book, because that knowledge will be so invaluable for you. And for the athletes out there looking to improve their athletic performance with a purpose, I'm offering a free live masterclass where I'll talk about 5 common mistakes athletes make that hinder success. If you're ready for a change and want the skills to take your performance to the next level, then I want you to go and sign up at laurawilkinson.com/masterclass. That's laurawilkinson.com/masterclass to sign up for my free live masterclass on 5 common mistakes athletes make that hinder success. I'll see you there. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, because we have an absolutely insane athlete joining us. David Coulturi was once just a 10-meter platform diver like myself, but apparently that wasn't quite enough of a thrill. He is now a cliff diver and travels internationally, diving from nearly 9 stories high. I'm sure you're wondering how he does it. I am too. You don't want to miss it. On behalf of Hope Sports, I'm Laura Wilkinson. Thanks for tuning in and have a great week. This podcast was produced by Evo Terra and Simpler Media. For more information on Hope Sports and to access the complete archives, please visit hopesports.org.